fun,
pure,
inquisitive,
sharing, innocent,
valuable,
history makers,
happy,
harmless,
vulnerable,
family.
precious.
I think of all of that when I think of children.
We use a wooden statue of the Sankofa as our talking piece. It's a bird looking backwards with an egg in its beak. Sankofa teaches us that we must go back to our roots so that we can achieve our full potential as we move forward.
This is Nova Scotia, a province on the east coast of Canada. People of African descent have lived here for hundreds of years in communities around the province. African Nova Scotian children in need were not always permitted entry into white orphanages. Often, they were left destitute and vulnerable. The Nova Scotia Home for Colored Children was established in 1915 by a private member's bill to provide care and service to Black children in need. The home received support from key community organizations such as the African Baptist Association. The provincial government purchased land for the facility in the Westfall area of Dartmouth. More than 1,000 people gathered for the official opening on June 6, 1921. A voluntary board of trustees with ties to the provincial government governed the home. This residential facility, designed to house and care for infants to late adolescents, was situated on a large acreage that included a commercial farm. Poultry barns, a piggery, cows, and field crops brought in revenue for the home's operation. By 1948, resident children took their classes at a newly built segregated school on the home's acreage. Before this, schooling took place within the facility itself. The exclusion of Black children from orphanages fit the widespread historical pattern of systemic racism in all sectors of Nova Scotian society. From denial of jobs, housing, services in restaurants or movie theaters, to segregation in education. This was the harsh reality of what it meant to be Black in Nova Scotia. The home's mission was intended to serve and protect Black children. It was a source of pride. Government funding, extensive fundraising, and farm revenue provided its financial base. Children were placed from across Nova Scotia and on occasion from other maritime provinces. Throughout the history of the home, there were troubling conditions and circumstances in its operation. Many of the staff had little training in childcare, and government oversight was lacking.
I worked in and out of the chicken house, getting eggs from the chickens, but I can't remember eating an egg in the home. One was working in the field, picking carrots, and not allowed to eat a carrot or get a drink of water until after I filled the cart full of carrots.
There were certain things that they did to make us feel special. And one of the things for me was the cook who called me the bread and butter boy, because we were always hungry. You know, that's a whole different thing about not being fed properly. So I would go to her as often as I could and ask her if there's any chores that she would like me to do. And she would say yes. Some days it would be no. But when she said yes, she said, "Thank you very much, and I'll go outside by the window, and she'll sneak me a piece of bread and butter." And I always remember that, because as badly as we were treated by some staff, we were treated very well by others. And it gave us a little sense of hope.
Well, my memory is piano lessons. I liked the piano lessons, which was one good thing about being there. I did like the piano lessons. Other than that, nothing else I liked.
Used to have the kids all do sing songs and stuff, and so I used to play the piano, and we used to sit around the piano and sing songs. And I loved going to school.
The children who lived at the home were not always singing. There was darkness in the home. Many children suffered physical, emotional, and sexual abuse.
One of my memories was being slapped in the face and stuff. That was being the way I was treated and stuff. And so I just want to, and also one of my biggest memories too was watching my siblings being taken away out of there. 3 of them got taken got adopted, taken down in Caledonia for a while, and then they got adopted into New Jersey. And that was a heartbreaker, because who'd ever thought, but we did get to see him after 48 years. We did get in contact. So one of my biggest memories is losing my siblings.
Because before this, I would never speak about the home. I never spoke about it to anybody that I knew. And people say how you grew up and everything. I didn't want to say, well, I was separated from my family when I was young. We were ripped apart. Our whole family it's 8 of us children. And my mother did her best. She did her best to look after us and bring us up. But then social services, they stepped in and just decided, well, we know what's best for the kids. Just take them all and put them in the colored home, because they didn't want to help my mother take care of us. And so when financially, yeah, she was having a hard time. So it was their decision, just take them, just scoop them all up. And I'll never, ever forget that day when they came and took us all. And I'm the oldest out of the 8 children. So I will never forget that day.
It was clear that largely well-intentioned systems and people had failed the most vulnerable children, and had failed to understand the experience of those children, their families, their communities. And it resulted in a tragedy that marred, really, child welfare in Nova Scotia.
Institutionalized and systemic racism has played a part in what happened at the home, and our siloed way of working is or can be a breeding ground to allow things like institutionalized racism and systemic racism to continue, and because it goes unchecked. If we're kind of fragmented in how we respond to things, and if we have not created an environment where people are comfortable to raise their hand, to flag that something is wrong here, to speak truth, then I think those are the situations in which things like institutionalized racism can flourish and kind of fester.
You look at what were some of the things that led to this. So you look at poverty, you look at why we were being placed there, you look at why were we taken from some of our communities because it didn't meet the Eurocentric standards or things of that nature. So it's learning those things to ensure that never happens again. But most importantly is that the healing for us former residents, the healing for staff that were there, because not all staff treated us badly.
I believe our community, African Nova Scotian community, lives under a culture of silence, because society in general paints us with the same brush, and it's a negative brush. So to add more pain to those strokes, to take responsibility for the pain of little children, to know even that may not have been you, but my aunt, uncle, cousin, father, mother may have been part of that, the shame, the guilt, the trying to make sense of it in your own mind?
Well, I do think that, you know, our community tends to keep things hush-hush because I don't think we want to bring shame or blame onto other people in our community, or we don't want the wider community to think that we've done such things in our community. For instance, I was a resident of the home for almost 14 months, and my grandmother came to get me when I was 2 years old to take me to live with her, but she never ever told me that I had been a resident in the home. And I didn't know until I was almost in my, I'd say, late teens. And that's part of our community and, you know, code of silence.
And it was just an opportunity for us to get together because we didn't know a lot of each other, and we were there at different decades, and we were trying to look at how we're going to move forward to receive justice. And at the time, the eldest was 86. A lot of stress and anxiety, a lot of pain that people have suffered for a lot of years, and you can really see it in their bodies. And slowly but surely, as we went around, we started talking, sharing our stories. We got to be stronger, and we found our voices. And there's a lot of singing, crying, praying, and hoping that someday we would get justice and not live with the shame and guilt.
And while we were there, the elders that were amongst us again said, we may not be here to have our voices heard. We want you guys to continue to share our stories, wherever it matters, wherever it has meaning, share our stories, make sure our voices are not lost through this process. So as a result, we formalized Voices, which is Victims of Institutional Childhood Exploitation Society.
Honesty.
Love.
Future.
Important.
Life.
No racism.
Joy.
Everybody's equal when you're a child.
Opportunity.
Fun.
Innocence. Yeah.